when your partner starts stepping to one hamstring or the other. Okay, because now if she goes to step in to a straight hamstring, for example, now it's going to be hard for my leg to pommel in. If she goes here, it's going to be hard now for my legs to pommel in. All right, so a smart opponent's going to do this. So whenever I see I'm beat, the first thing I do, as she goes to step in, I want to get back to the inside foot position. As she goes to step in, if I can't pommel my legs in, she's too close, I take 2 hands on the floor, 2 feet to the floor, and I just push and drag myself backwards. Like so. Now she goes to take a second step, I pommel back to the inside. She goes to take a second step, I pommel back to the inside. She goes to take a second step, I block the foot. Okay? So as she goes to take that second step to follow me is when I pommel my legs back to the inside. So she beats me to either hamstring, maybe she goes cross hamstring this time. I just take my 2 hands on the floor, I back away. Now she goes to recover, I bring my foot as a blocker, 1. Then I bring the foot to the inside position, foot to the inside position, and now we're ready to go into attacks. Okay, so if I find my partner's naive and steps right to the middle, I can just bring my feet back inside. If she goes straight or cross hamstring, we quickly come in, we back away, and then bring the feet back to the inside position. If I find my partner goes to flatten me out, so let's say I can't back up, my partner actually puts my back on the floor. Okay, she's getting closer and closer to a pass now. I want to retain my guard just by staying in a seated position. You saw Marcelo was huge with this. In my matches, I'm not afraid to go down to a supine position and play De La Riva, reverse De La Riva. I'm confident there, playing half guard, playing situations like that. But if you look at Marcelo, especially his match with Kron, like Kron is doing everything, like poking in his eyes, like he's doing everything he can to put Marcelo on his back, and Marcelo is just insistent. He just insists in staying in a seated position. Okay, so if you just want to retain guard, a seated position is one of the best places you can be. Okay, because your partner has to split the legs, outflank you, put you on your back before they can even start the pass. Those are the prerequisites. Okay, so let's say she does flatten me out now. She goes to step in. There's ways that I can start going into follow-up attacks to start moving back into a seated position. Okay, I can't just accept this if I want to move back to a seated position. So the second she goes to flatten me out, I hit some kind of initial off balance as she goes to flatten me out. She goes to drive into me, her weight's coming towards me. I hit some kind of initial kazushi, and now from here I start going into the legs. Where now I can have an ashigrami, I have 2 feet inside, which is what I wanted to enter into anyways when I was seated. I want to get 2 feet inside and go into some kind of supine guard with ashigrami, X guard, things like that. Or maybe I go to start entering into leg, she pulls away, and now I get up, I start playing a seated guard again. Okay? Or she goes to step in cross hamstring, now she goes to flatten me out, I go to invert. Now I enter into some kind of attacks on my partner's legs, which is what we wanted anyway. Or I get some kind of initial off balance where she goes to step inside, she beats me, I go to invert, she goes to run away, and now I can recover, get back into a seated safe position, and start making contacts from a seated guard. Okay, so whenever you find your partner steps inside, you have the choice to either repommel back to the inside position, you have the choice to scoot back and away from your partner. If they hustle you down to your back, you have to create some kind of offensive movement, breaking their offensive cycle and going to your own offensive cycle, that you can either get to the position you wanted, where you can attack your partner's legs, or worst case scenario, they move away from you, then you can sit back up and start going into your follow-up attacks from seated guard. You can stay seated, they can't pass you, and you're in a good position to go into all of your follow-ups. Okay, so again, a lot of this in the seated instructional, just some brief ways how to get the legs back inside, and just the goals you have in mind when you're just trying to retain guard and go into attacks, staying in a seated position, making sure you can keep your feet inside. All right, so now we're going to look at what we can do when an opponent flanks us. So they want to look to either split the legs or outflank us. All right, and when they split the legs, they can put us on their back. If they're grip fighting and they grab our ankles, they can put us on our back. That's why we need to be strong with the grip fighting here. We looked at many grip fighting sequences in other instructionals. And if they outflank us, they can create back exposure. If I stay here, there's a lot of back exposure. She can obviously walk completely behind me. Or it'll force me to fall down to a supine position where now she's flanking me. I'm supine, and there's a real danger of me getting passed from here. Okay, so let's look at some ways that we can avoid this and keep our partner in front of us in a seated guard and make contact with our partner to go into our follow-up attacks. after we deal with the initial retention problem. So we're going to be in here. She's going to look to outflank us. Again, she has to be in a square stance or a staggered stance in order to do this. So as she goes to outflank us, just as strikers move into the space where their opponent just was, we're going to move into the same space that our opponent just was. So as she goes to outflank me, I just take my foot and I extend it like so. I always make sure that I keep one foot folded in, because it's very common for your opponent to feint with the lead leg. She goes to step, and if I go here, now instead of stepping to the outside and flanking me, she steps inside my legs. So she goes to feint one, and then steps inside, and now I'm beat. Okay, in which case I have to back away and then recover. Okay, so I always keep one foot folded in, and I reach with the opposite foot. So now she goes to outflank me, I just move into the space where she was just in. So as she goes to outflank, and now we face our partner, now we can come in and look to make contact. Okay, what I don't want is to go straight backwards. Your partner's going to move much faster than you. So as she goes to outflank me, what I can't do is this. As she goes to move, I can't look to put her back in front of me. I'm moving like this. It's never going to work realistically. When she goes to outflank me, if I just walk backwards, she just keeps following me and walks behind me. Go ahead. No matter how fast I go, you're always going to lose this battle. So I always go to the space where she was just in. She's standing here in front of me. As she goes to outflank me, now we're here, and now I have connection with my foot. Now we make an initial connection. We bring a foot to the inside, a second foot to the inside, and now we're ready to go into our attacks. Okay, so initially, if I can stay seated, I will. So she goes to outflank me. And come in here, now we're ready to play. If I find that my partner outflanks me and puts me on my back, what can I do from here? Okay, so she goes to outflank me. I fall to my back, and I feel like I'm going to get beat from here. One great option is we can initially put our partner back in front of us and go into the same series that we did when our partner split the legs. So we can post on my partner in various ways. All right, depending on what kind of grip she has, I can post on the bicep, I can post on the shin, and I can put my partner back in front of me. And now she goes to accept the reverse Delahiva. I can look to go into inversions, into attacks of the legs, or she goes to move out and away, so I can move my partner forward and now sit up and go back into a seated guard and reset. Okay, so as she goes to outflank me, I can't move. I fall down like so. I put my partner back in front of me, and I go right into a follow-up attack where I hit the initial off balance, the initial kazushi, and then from here we can look to reset or go into attacks. All right. As she goes to outflank me, same thing. I can put my partner back in front of me, and I can use outside Delahiva situations, or I can put my partner's hands down to the floor, and now we can look to get back up with the initial kazushi. My partner can go to outflank me, like so, and I can just put my partner back in front and threaten to put my two legs inside, like so. Where now she goes to come on to me, she goes into an Ashigarami. So she has no choice but to post on my legs and back away. Now I can come right back into a seated position and recover seated versus standing and go into make my connections. Okay, so some ways to deal with your partner outflanking you. She goes to outflank me. Initially, I want to stay seated. I just want to retain guard. I want to stay seated. I want to stay here. Now she goes to sit me back down. We can look to bring our legs inside and look to threaten leg entanglements. She goes to back away. This pulls me back up, and now we can go into all of our attacks, bring your feet back inside. She goes to outflank me. I fall down. I can willingly put my partner's legs inside and split, and have her split my legs. So now we can go to all the follow-up attacks where as she goes to start pressuring down into me and tight passing, we can look to start creating situations where we can at least get our partner off balance and go back into a seated series where we can make contact and then address our partner's reactions as they come. Okay, but if we just want to maintain a seated position, retain our guard, and go into attacks, your whole thing is staying seated, getting back to a seated position if your partner puts you on your back, and then from there, bring your feet to the inside through contact with your partner, and then eventually going into your follow-up attacks with Ashiguramis and X-guard variations. All right, so before we go into supine versus loose passing, we're just going to do a little closing segment on seated versus loose passing. All right. Again, there are many ways for your opponent to start to attempt to pass, and there are many ways for you to retain guard and go into your counter attacks. You have to understand that retention can never be just retention. It always has to be one and the same with retaining your guard and going into counter attacks, so that you're never in constant defensive cycle. Okay, it can't just be retaining. So it's retain guard, attack, constant kazushi, constant attacks, so that you're in the driver's seat the whole time. You're dominating grip fighting exchanges, and you're working at what pace you want to work at, and you're forcing them to play your game. Okay, this is how you start to win matches over time. All right, when you're working in a seated versus standing, when you have a loose passer versus seated, again, your goals are relatively the same as the broad spectrum with loose passing. Okay, you never want your partner to outflank you, like so, and you always want your feet and your knees to be pointing towards your partner. All right, now you have a specific set of goals from this position. All right, I always want to make sure that my feet are pointing towards my partner once again, and I always want to look to make sure that my 2 feet stay inside my partner's knees. Okay, so I always want to ensure that wherever she goes, and now again there are tons of ways to do this. I always want to make sure that I have my partner in front of me with my feet pointing towards her. I'm winning the grip fighting exchange, and I'm looking to get my 2 feet inside of her 2 knees. Okay, if I can think about that, and I can say, okay, my ultimate final goal from seated versus standing is to get my 2 feet inside of my partner's knees, I can win from here. Okay, of course there are ways to sweep your partner where if you're seated and she's loose passing, I can go in with Tewaza techniques. I can pull the ankle and she can fall down to the ground, and we can sweep our partner. All right, but most of the time, we're looking for situations where we get an initial kazushi on a talented opponent. It's not going to just fall down. You'll go here, she'll step the foot up, I'll catch it like so, and then I'll pull myself into a situation where my 2 legs dominate the inside position, and we can go into attacks. Okay, so my ultimate goal, because the upper body's so far away, my ultimate goal in general is to keep my two feet inside of my partner's knees. Okay, and there are ways to do this. I can't let my partner split my legs. I can't let my partner put my back on the floor, whether it be by splitting my legs, whether it be by lifting my ankles. This is why I have to be dominant with the grip fighting exchanges, or whether it be outflanking me to put my back on the floor.